Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. So excited to be here today. As I already said, this is truly in partnership with Pro Sports Assembly. So proud to be a member, a contributor, an activist in Pro Sports Assembly, bringing all of us together. Today, we're going to talk about preparing for the big leagues, career transitions in pro sports, and I could not be more inspired to have a conversation with the not boring, a little bit crazy, a lot of wonderful Esé Ighedosa. So
Yes.
happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. And so, this is really an unplugged conversation. We're going to talk about your journey in sports, your twists and turns, your crazy avenues of how you zigged and zagged, gotten comfortable being uncomfortable. So comfortable in the unknown, because you certainly keep putting yourself in unknown territory. And flourishing, which is remarkable. We're going to cover everything from your NFL background, which we can't wait to hear about, to where you are today, the president of House of Athletes. So you also are a leading role model. And very recently, I heard that role models are real models. People who have been there, done that. That's the best wisdom, best advice that we could possibly get. You are opening new doors to diversity across sports leadership. So thank you for being here. We are grateful.
Thank you. I got to live up to that intro.
I know. I just had to put it all out there, and so that we could really get to the conversation. So let's go to your journey, your journey to date.
Oh, okay. So I am from Kansas City, Missouri. So I am a girl from the Midwest through and through. Went to Hampton University to play volleyball, and then went to Florida A&M University College of Law for law school. Did not want to do anything traditional per usual. And so
you're a troublemaker, so you got this. Keep going.
Exactly. So instead of going the traditional route to go in-house in sports, I took an internship making minimum wage with NFL Films in South Jersey doing licensing. And it was literally the best experience of my life. I got to help make shows that won Emmys. I got to go to Hawaii, broke, but I got to go to Hawaii and work the Pro Bowl, my first Pro Bowl, and really just kind of set the trajectory for my career. Ended up getting a full-time legal role at the National Football League office in New York, lived there for 4 years. And then I took a leap of faith and went to the Carolina Panthers. I really wanted to work for a team and be closer to the game. So became associate counsel for 2 seasons at the Carolina Panthers, eventually Tepper Sports Entertainment, because we bought a soccer team, we owned our stadium. So I was doing a lot there. And then last May, took a bigger leap of faith and came to join Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver at House of Athletes, to help build this amazing company. So it's been a whirlwind. I can't believe, I think I'm 8 years out of law school, and it feels like, decades, because I feel like I've just done so much, but I feel like I'm also just getting started at the same time.
You are just getting started, that is for sure. So let's go back. I mean, as a woman in sports, as a Black woman in sports, has it been, have you felt any inequity? Have you felt any that imposter syndrome? Have you felt alone? I mean, or have you just flourished and kept growing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a special dichotomy to my experience in sports. I am a Black woman that went to 2 historically Black colleges and universities. I went to Hampton, I went to FAMU. So you get to the NFL league office, and all of the lawyers pretty much went to Ivy League or quasi-Ivy League, came from the top firms in the country. So imposter syndrome was definitely a thing. I was the only Black woman lawyer in the legal department. So imagine being in a huge boardroom and you're the only one that looks like you that is an attorney in the room. That being said, the NFL really embraced me and gave me so many opportunities. And, I think they saw my grit. They saw how much I wanted it. And then also my work in diversity and inclusion really opened up a lot of doors for me to work directly with a lot of the executives. And so I was the bold girl my second year at the NFL that me and the commissioner were cool. We would see each other in the lunchroom. And I was like, I want to do a one-on-one with you to get to know you better. And he was like, okay. So I scheduled this meeting, and then people find out and they're like, nobody does that. And I was like, really? Nobody talks to the commissioner? Like, no one sets up a meeting? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, I'm meeting him on Thursday, so I'll tell you how it goes. So, that was just how I really embraced my career. I wanted to know everything about everything. And so I did get a lot of opportunity. But yes, was I underpaid? Was I underemployed? Absolutely. I didn't come from a firm. I didn't come from, a top law school. So, there was a point in time before I went to the Panthers that, a lot of people were telling me, me becoming an official counsel at the NFL was going to be impossible. And then a few months later, I got, associate counsel at the Panthers. So, it just goes for telling everyone, like, don't let anyone tell you no. Like, I just wasn't supposed to be a lawyer. I wasn't supposed to be counsel at the league office, right? Like, that wasn't my path. And so I've just learned to trust the experiences, but imposter syndrome is real. And, it's interesting now, like, I work for a Black man, super blessed to be in this position. And I still have imposter syndrome, like, as Black women in this country, most directions that you look, you're the anomaly, like, there's not a lot of people telling you that you're good enough, that you're qualified. You don't see a lot of Black women holding this position. You look at the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 leaders, you're gonna be hard pressed to find a Black woman in those top 2 seats. So it's been an interesting experience. I have certainly seen inequity. I have certainly fought inequity every step of my career, and not just for myself. I was one of the biggest advocates for my peers and, people that were coming after me. But I also have been very, very, very lucky, and I don't want to ever discredit that, because there's been a lot of people that have looked out for me over the years.
Well, let's talk about this. I don't think you've been lucky. I think that you've created the table that you want to sit at, and you don't wait and watch, but you ask and go. I think that's very clear. And you talked about grit, which you clearly have the grit to go over to someone and say, I want you to know me.
Yeah.
You put yourself in that opportunity. You created that opportunity for change. And I think that's so admirable. You have grace with grit, by the way.
Thank you.
You are so incredibly graceful. Who, when you talk about you've had allies or mentors along the way, who have been some of those mentors?
Yeah, so, I'll go back to law school. Natalie Jackson, an attorney that I interned for, ended up representing Trayvon Martin's family. So my second year of law school, I was working on the Trayvon Martin case, which was pivotal for not just my career, but my life. And she's always been someone that I've admired. She's beautiful, but she is tough, and she is smart, but she's unapologetically herself. And that's kind of what helped me become more comfortable in my skin. I interned with the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin Warren at the time was the most senior Black person on the business side in the National Football League. And he's been instrumental in getting me into rooms that I would have never been in before. And then when I got to the National Football League, Kimberly Fields has been a huge, huge, huge mentor and friend to me. And I always say that I stand on her shoulders, because she probably went through a lot of things, that I didn't have to go through. She's been the only Black woman in the room. She was special assistant to the commissioner, the first Black woman, the first Black person to own that position. And she did it for almost 2 years. And she has shown me what is needed to navigate the National Football League, which is not an easy place to navigate. She's one of the most respected people in the NFL. So she's just that person I can call, because she's probably been through it. Anything I'm going through, she's probably been through it or seen it, and she knows how to navigate very difficult situations. And then Eric Grubman, a former EVP from the National Football League, he's like my, he's the person that can, honestly, if I'm being honest, like, he speaks powerful white male executive. He speaks it, a language I don't know, an experience I can't relate to. And so he's the person where if I was going to have a big meeting with a powerful person in the NFL, I'm going to him, and he would literally role play conversations with me. Like, okay, what are you going to say? All right, they're probably going to respond like this. And he was just able to tell me how the other side thinks. And,
how is it different from what you expected? So when you role played and you played out a scenario and he said, it's not going to play out like that.
Well, first of all, the way that he can speak to the commissioner and to the other executives is not necessarily the way that I can speak. So he would, give me points to say, and I would be like, Eric, I can't quite say it like that, but it's good to hear that, because I always say this, and it might be offensive, but if you have the confidence of an average white male, you're going to get far in life. And he is far from average, but he was able to just make things very like black and white, like it's business, just talk business. And he was the one that told me, if you want to make change, you have to get into a position of power. Don't try to become the chief diversity officer, become the president, become the commissioner, become the CEO, because that's the person that signs the D&I check. That's the person that signs off on the budget. And so he was someone that was really able to help me see the bigger picture and also take the emotion out of it, because he cares about these issues, but he's able to help me address it from a business standpoint, not an emotional standpoint. But yeah, it's funny because he would tell me to say things and I'm like, I can't. Like he's like former Goldman Sachs. I'm like, I cannot talk like you to this other EVP when I'm trying to like fight for something. So
such an echo. You might not have the exact same words, but you do have the confidence of a white male executive, I have to say, because you are emitting this big voice, this big confidence. I mean, I can feel that.
Yeah.
So his coaching was amazing. And I always say the best advice comes from people who have been there, done that. And so
that's true.
all of your wisdom and all of your mentors along your journey have been so, influential in terms of shaping who you are today, but also giving you the baton to pay it forward to so many others, which you certainly do. So tell us about the House of Athlete. What is it?
Yeah, so House of Athlete is a really exciting lifestyle wellness brand. So we have about 4 different business verticals. We have fitness facilities where we train the top athletes in the world. So right now we have about 60 pro NFL players training here. NBA guys are on their way now that their season is wrapping up. But we also are open to gym pop. So just like people that work out at Equinox or Lifetime Fitness, you can come here and have a membership. Our key differentiator is mental fitness though. So we focus on holistic health. So you're not just gonna come here because you wanna lose 20 pounds. You're gonna come here because you wanna be your best self. So on Wednesdays, all we do is recovery and mental health. So just like how you can book a cardio class, you can book a mental fitness class. And it is literally group therapy because Brandon is very big in the mental health space. And his goal is to destigmatize mental health by calling it mental fitness, just like physical fitness. So we're really passionate about that. We have a really
mental fitness is genius because we talk about mental health, and health is a spectrum. Mental fitness, we talk about getting quality fit, and you're talking about getting mental fit. And I remember I was interviewing a bunch of NFL football players, and they said, Shelley, people don't think that we are emotional. They think because we're big football players, we're strong and we don't care about that. We're really emotional. And they said in huddles, we actually sometimes cry. We have emotional conversations. And, it's really about getting, mentally fit. That's really part of being successful. It's not
80% of your performance, whether it's physical or anything, it's mental. So we come in here and, people want to look good and they want to get, paid more. They want to do all these things. But if you're not mentally fit and at your best, none of that is going to matter. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how good you look in your bikini, like it does not matter, right? And so that's really one of our key differentiators. We have a high-end athleisure wear line designed by Mishi Marshall, Brandon's wife, who went to fashion school while he was playing for the Bears. So really excited about that. It's super intentional. We just did a mental health capsule collection this past May. That was lime green, which is the color for mental health. We have a nutritional supplement line. So everything from rest supplements and mental fitness supplements to, proteins and fat burners. And then we also have our production company. So we have a really popular podcast out called I Am Athlete. It's actually one of the top 30 podcasts in the world. And we are just making waves and really becoming that safe space for athletes. Like, athletes are coming on our platform. We just had Deion Sanders. And, they're really telling stories that they have never told before or never told in this way before, because it is an athlete-owned platform where we're not here to bash players. We're here to tell stories on their terms. So really excited about where I Am Athlete is going as well. So that's House of Athlete. It's athlete-owned. And really, our goal is to sell the elite athlete lifestyle, how they train, how they fuel, how they dress, their culture, because Brandon really believes that athletes are the healthiest people on the planet. And so if you buy into our lifestyle, so we have our 5 pillars: fuel, train, mental fitness, recovery, and tribe. And tribe is, who are you doing this with? Most people can't do this by themselves. And so who's around you? Do you guys have the same goals? And that's really also what the show taps into. It's not just players talking about football, it's talking about marriage and relationships and finances and politics and, racism and, all the things. Like, D Wade came on and talked about his daughter and, having a daughter that, belongs to a community that he didn't know anything about. So it's really all things athlete, and it's introducing this lifestyle to the everyday athlete.
Wow, I am absolutely going to become part of that tribe, because it's just
coming to LA. So we have one facility in South Florida. We're building a facility in Dallas that'll be open by the end of the year, and LA should be open by next year. So I'll make sure you're on the list.
Yeah, I'm all in. I think it's just fantastic. So talk about all in. What brought you to joining the movement PSA, the Pro Sports Assembly?
It's easy. My whole career in the NFL has been, largely defined by my work on the D&I side. Like, I'm a lawyer by day, but most of my time I was organizing. I started the Black Engagement Network at the National Football League, which is the Black employee resource group that really helped the NFL, connect to not only its Black employees, but the Black community. So when I met Laura Dixon, who is the director, it was a no-brainer. She was like, I want to make sports more equitable. I'm like, okay, sign me up, because this is almost my life's work. And I know how much it's needed. And I also know that sports entities they're so nuanced. They don't like talking to outsiders, but they want to talk to each other. But there wasn't an organization that was bringing NBA teams with NFL teams, with lacrosse teams, right? Like, we weren't talking to each other, and we didn't really have a forum to do that. Because if you go talk to ESPN and they find out that you have a diversity problem, you're a headline, but still nothing is getting solved. So how can we create this safe space for leagues, teams, and unions to make our industry more equitable? And this PSA is doing that. Like, we're on calls, and there's never been calls before where the general counsel of the Spurs is on with the executive director of the NBPA, and then there's the CMO of the 49ers, all on one call, and everybody on the call, their sole purpose is equity and inclusion. That just has never been done before. So I was really excited to build that, because I had did that when I was in New York. We started our ERG the same time that the NBA started their Black ERG, Dream in Color. And we collaborated a lot. And I actually created a network in New York of Fortune 500 companies, Black ERGs. And you just see the value of learning from each other. So when I'm talking to the commissioner, when I'm talking to our COO, and I'm telling them what NBC is doing, what Facebook is doing, it's powerful, right? Because those are our partners. And these are the companies that you want to be in company with on the business side. we'll be in company with them on the diversity side as well. And I feel like PSA is doing that in sports.
It's just so incredibly true. And Laura, we love you. You really are.
She's great.
Leading the way, talk about really taking the action steps that we need. I mean, it's really incredible home run. I think that one of the things that's so important is not only that we're bringing together the leagues, but also the teams, as you know, and sharing. I mean, sharing the good, bad, and the ugly. Like for me, historically, we've all been doing the same thing separately, which is why we've been going backwards. Why can't we collaborate for change forward, which is so important? And so thank you, everyone, for all of your comments. Keep them coming. Misfit Lawyer says it comes from the top, the boardroom and C-suite, developing initiatives that can be cascaded down. It is so true. Thank you for that comment. What have you learned so far from PSA Assembly when you said, you know, you're sitting on calls with, you know, leaders from different leagues and different teams that you didn't know? What value have you already taken that you're bringing to House of Athletes?
I think that it reinforced what I told you I learned from Eric Rubin. It can't just be the diversity department, the D&I department that is working on this. If you don't have the buy-in from the president, the GM, the CMO, people that actually move the needle on the business side, you're never going to get far. And so I love the PSA board because it's not just the D&I person from each team or league. It's, you know, chief HR officers, you know, it's presidents of teams, it's, you know, owners. Like that's what we're going for. And it just shows that it has to be a business priority. It cannot be a morality issue anymore. Like that is so 10, 20 years ago. If your company, your organization is not approaching equity and inclusion as a business priority, and if you don't believe that your bottom line will improve with a more equitable environment, with a more diverse workforce, you're never going to fully buy into this process. And so that's what I've learned. And I see the teams that are doing it well, it's coming from the top. They have a budget. That person has a direct line to the top decision maker. They don't have to go through 10 layers to get to the president or the, you know, the team owner. They have a direct line. And that person at the top has chosen to make it a business priority. And I feel like a lot of organizations need to learn from that, because there's still a lot of organizations that are looking at it as it's just the right thing to do. Is it the best thing to do for business? I don't know. It's the right thing to do. We don't want any bad PR. That's not going to move the needle. Oh, you're on mute.
There's noise in the background. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Misfit Lawyer says Dick's is a good example. They created an all-female board to address attrition and societal issues that may affect professional athletes' mental state.
I love that.
I think that is just so incredibly true. Do you find sitting on the PSA board, first of all, there is such diversity, gender, race diversity, which really already creates a new dynamic at the table.
Yeah.
Are you experiencing that?
I love that. You know, I don't want to be on a board that's all women. I don't want to be on a board that's all, you know, people of color. Like there has to be white male leaders at the table, but it can't be all white male leaders either. You know, like there's so much value in diversity of thought, and there has to be a safe space for us to address these issues. And so what we can't have is a board where people are afraid to say what's really going on in their organizations, right? Because especially teams, they have such little resources, and so many teams are on the spectrum of infrastructure and sophistication, to be honest. And so there's some teams that they need access to PSA to get a wider, you know, understanding about what the market is doing, because a lot of teams are just in their own little bubble. But I love the diversity of the board because everybody has their own opinions, their own experiences, and you're going to get the best result. Like we don't always agree on everything, but the best result comes out of the conversation. And I think just good networking as well. You know, we're kind of competitive, right? Like, you know, normally you don't want to do what the NFL is doing if you're the NBA or the MLB, but this is a space where like it's not competitive. Like if you're further ahead, I want to work with you because I'm trying to get to where you're going, because we all have, you know, the same goal.
I think, you know, what's coming from the conversation, so thank you for jumping in, is yes, you don't want to see an all women, you don't want to see an all male board, but it says Misfit agrees, but they were addressing a systemic issue of having an all white male board where issues of females were not addressed.
Yeah, no, that's powerful.
You know, which is very powerful. So what are some, in your opinion, you know, with representation in sports, especially NFL,
Mhm.
you know, there's no female NFL league. What are some solutions, you know, with your background in diversity and inclusion for creating more women in the business of sports, you know, on the field, off the field, on the court, off
It's
the
just
court?
opportunity. That is the only thing that is keeping us. It's not capability, it's not knowledge. It's literally let me in and give me a seat at the table. And don't just give me a seat, listen when I speak, you know? And that's what's holding us back. We're just simply not getting the opportunity. And another problem in professional sports is they don't want to hire outsiders. If you haven't done it before, they're not trying to take a chance on you. Well, where does that put, you know, minorities and double minorities? If we can't even get in the door, how do we get ahead if you only want to hire someone that's done it before? Well, the only people that you've let do it before are white men for the most part. And also, don't just hire a diverse person for the D&I role. You know, that's what we saw this past year after George Floyd. A lot of D&I roles created. And yes, a lot of those people were people of color, which is great because we want people of color to get, you know, executive positions. I want to see the Black CMO get hired. I want to see the Black president get hired. I want to see the chief revenue officer be Black, be Latino, be, you know, Asian or Pacific. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see every person of color on the executive team be in HR or D&I. Those positions are amazing and much needed, but now I see there's actually a trend of us being pigeonholed in those roles. We know business, we know numbers, be intentional. Where are the Black CFOs? Where are the Latino CFOs? Where are the women CFOs? I was lucky to be at the Panthers when we promoted.
Go with CEO.
Everything, you know, like that's what we need. And I feel like that there's still a far way to go there because now we're hiring more people of color, but they're being kind of pigeonholed into a few roles. And so we need to be more intentional about giving the opportunity, but it starts with the pipeline. So if you're not hiring the staff accountant, how is that person ever going to become the CFO if you're not even letting them work their way up? And so we have to be intentional about the pipeline and don't just have a really cool internship program. Hire the interns, give them the opportunity. It's not charity, it's building a pipeline. Because let's be clear, 99.9% of what we do in sports is not rocket science. Like, especially when you talk about the NFL, you got the best product. There is no person at the NFL that is going to prevent the NFL from being successful because the product is literally the best in the market. So that tells you, while you're being so picky about people coming from Harvard or Yale, you're not doing yourself any good, like any service. Like someone that went to Hampton can work for the NFL and do great. You just have to give me the opportunity and you have to teach me because 9 times out of 10, what you're doing in sports is so nuanced. You didn't learn it in school. You learned it on the job. So give the opportunity and then you'll see that that pipeline should lead to people in executive positions. But what's happening also is that middle management. So you get them in the door and then you lose them because you're not promoting them, you're not including them. So it's about the full life cycle of the employee. But PSA is trying to address all of that, which I'm really excited to be a part of.
Well, you know, we say it's not just filling the pipeline, but it's also creating the pathway.
Yes.
Which I think is so incredible.
So important.
And I think that when you talked about middle management, we call it the messy middle because it's really, you know, that period of time where you're gaining more responsibility at work, more responsibility at home, and, you know, creates all kinds of challenges. You have so many comments coming in here. Lily says, yes, I have a master's degree in international relations, managed to get multi-citizenship and served as an international professional athlete. No sports organization in America would allow me in. So we started a diverse company. How about outsource and promote from within? Thank you for that. Bailey, Nicole Love says, if you are not preparing your interns to be hired by you or poached by another team, you need to reevaluate your internship program.
Oh, I love that. I always say, and I've told my team here, I'm not looking at just your performance. I'm looking at the success of your team. If I come to you, I went to one of my directors and I said, if you were to leave today, who can take your role? And he was like, nobody. But he said it with kind of confidence. And I'm like, that's a reflection on you as a leader. If you are not preparing the people on your team to matriculate, take your role so you can move up as well, you have failed. And I don't care if you're a top performer. And a lot of times in sports, unfortunately, we praise performance, we promote performance, but we don't promote management. So you have a lot of people that are getting promoted and been put on the fast track because they're smart and they're sharp, but they're awful managers and they could care less about their team and the success of their team and the matriculation of their team. But who suffers the most? If you don't have good managers, I guarantee you minorities are going to suffer the most if you don't value management, if you don't value how people are treating people. Because people, what we do know, people don't leave jobs, they leave people. Like you're not leaving the NFL, you're not leaving Super Bowl, you're leaving your experience, right? You're leaving being excluded, you're leaving hostile work environments, you're leaving because you've been failed to be promoted the last 3 or 4 cycles. We used to get these emails from the NFL when they did promotions, and it literally became an exercise to count the people of color, because you can always count them. Okay, 1, there's 20 people, 1 this time, 2 that time, 0 that time. You get the reorg emails. There's nobody Black, there's nobody of color, there's barely any women that are getting promoted in these reorgs. That's why people leave, because they don't even see the path ahead. They're like, I've gotten 10 emails about people getting promoted and none of them look like me. None of them have my background. Why am I even wasting my time? I'm going to go somewhere else. So that's what we need to start addressing.
Wow. So true, because it's about representation, but it's also about reflection, seeing yourself there and seeing the possibilities. And if you don't see the possibilities, you can't.
If you can't see it, you can't be it.
Well, there you go. That is just so incredibly true. What is your best advice for professional sports next generation, top leadership?
I think get experience wherever you can. I was lucky enough to start my career in the NFL, but everybody's not that lucky. And so don't be picky. Work at your college, like volunteer, get your experience. If you want to be a sports lawyer, become a damn good lawyer. Don't just get down because the 3 jobs that are open, which are probably already accounted for, by the way, you didn't get them. And so now you're just like, you're just sulking. Become a really good transactional attorney, become a really good litigator. Because when those jobs do come open, they are looking for the best of the best. So people think that, they have to start in the sexy jobs. No, do event somewhere else. If you know how to put on an event, you know how to put on an event. Master your craft. So when that opportunity does come knocking, because these opportunities are few and far between, they're so competitive. Likely there's already an intern or internal candidate that's already lined up for the role because they just don't get headcount. So if you're going to compete for those few roles, you have to be an expert in your field. No one wants to hire you just because you're fun or you love sports or you're a really big fan of the Panthers. No, like, do you know a contract like the back of your hand? Because the game day is the easy part. You know what I mean? Like, working on something with Cam Newton is very, very easy. It takes a little out of you. Doing a contract and you're up until midnight, like doing revisions, that's what I want to make sure that you know how to do. So master your craft, get the experience that you can, and just know that there are a million ways to get to where you want to get to. I took a very untraditional path. And so I hate when people think that they have to do one. It's like, no, your path is probably look like this. There's people that don't get to professional sports until 10 years into their career, 15 years into their career. And there's people like me that start in it. So you can't look at someone else. You have to run your own race and stay dedicated to your path.
Well, what is so incredibly clear is you are creating your path, you are running fast, you are bringing others with you.
Right.
Touchdown time and time again. I'm so inspired by you, all that you're doing, inspiration. If anyone has any last thoughts, any last questions, talk about the big leagues. You are in the big leagues. Your pivots have all been additive value add, from where you've been to where you are. And I can't wait to watch and learn more and more from you.
Thank you.
Want to be, yes, I wanted to be a sports attorney, so I went and played the sport. Now I really enjoy playing the sport more than the legal side. Do you feel that your law degree was overpowered by your sports enthusiasm, or?
No, I'm never sorry about being a lawyer. Like it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm thinking like a lawyer. Law school teaches you how to think. It doesn't teach you much of anything technical, to be honest. It teaches you how to think and strategize. And so for me, even now, I'm not in a pure legal role, although I still, oversee a lot of our legal. I think differently than almost everyone in the room. And so I love being a lawyer, and just the fact that, I always said, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I need to work in fashion, entertainment, or sports, because those are the only things I care about. So for me, it's just like, if I'm going to be doing a contract, I'd rather it be, a sponsorship deal sponsoring Ocho and his first exhibition fight. Like, if I'm going to be doing this and I don't like to read, I'm a good writer. I don't like to write. Like, if I'm going to be doing these things, I need to be interested in the subject matter. So for me, it's like the perfect combination. But being a lawyer, you're always probably the smartest person in the room, to be honest, because you can see things differently. So I'm never mad about it. I love being a lawyer. And even now, with me not technically practicing, I use my law degree every day. And it just scares people. You get on a conference call with a group of people and you're like, just so you guys know, I'm a lawyer. People change their tone and they're like, you're not going to bullshit me. You can try to bullshit Brandon. You're not bullshitting me, because I got questions.
I got this. Is the truth. And exactly. I think you also just created your perfect role, because you said you wanted to be in fashion, you wanted to be in talent, you wanted to be in sports. I mean, you could not have created a better place for yourself that combines all of those elements, including being mentally fit, which
it's exciting. I've always wanted to work with athletes off the field, and they don't have a lot of people that look like them that understand the other side of the business. So for me, even before I, came to work with Brandon, I was already, advising and helping players, because they just don't know the side of that business. And there's not a lot of people that they can trust in this industry. So for me, coming from the NFL, I was one of those few people that they knew, that understood them, that talked like them, that came from where they come from. But I also know the commissioner, and I worked on, agreements that a lot of people haven't seen before. And so I wanted to be that trusted resource, because so many of our players are led astray on the business side. They're taken advantage of because they just don't have people around that they can trust. So for me, I'm living out my dream of helping players achieve their dreams off the field, off the court, while achieving mine as well. And I just didn't want anything boring. And now I probably took it to the extreme, where every day is a whirlwind. But it's been exciting to be able to just do everything that I'm interested in.
Okay, so before we wrap, questions are pouring in. So Chloe is asking, how did you conquer any doubts or fears you might have had when leaving the comfortable for the unknown?
First of all, I have, moments about once a week where I'm like, what the heck did I just decide to do? So that fear never goes away, but I try to be energized by my fear. And, chances are, if you ain't scared, you're not doing anything legendary. So I try to tell myself, when I get scared, when I get overwhelmed, that what I'm doing is going to be legendary, because I always wanted to do game-changing things. I wanted to be a game changer. So for me, anytime that I get fearful, that I feel like I'm an imposter, one thing I realized is that most people that started amazing things did not have a clue what they were doing. Because again, There's a few people that work for NASA. Outside of that, a lot of this is not rocket science. So you just have to do it, and you can't be afraid to fail. And a lot of times as minorities, we're not given the opportunity to fail. So we don't take chances, we don't take risks. And so for me, you know, I forced myself to be scared. I forced myself to go with the unsure thing. I had sure things lined up and I knew I wanted to be challenged, but this was the thing that scared me the most. And so my mentors told me, if this is what scares you the most, this is probably what you should be doing. I try to embrace that, but I probably have a breakdown about once a week. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah, but you know, if you don't try new things, you're not evolving as a human. And so to me, the word failure is just another word for trying something that you haven't done before. And
did you learn from it? Like, I've learned from every mistake. I just have to be given the room to learn, you know, and that's just about being in the right environment. But you can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to mess up, because the people that you see that are really successful, they probably failed a million times before you see their success. So I just try to remind myself of that. And, you know, nothing is the end of the world. If this doesn't work out, I'm still Esé. Like, I'm not giving up on my dreams. I'm not stopping. You know, you can't put faith in anything else but yourself. You got to bet on yourself. I'm not betting on House of Athlete. I'm betting on Esé. And Esé should be a key part of making House of Athlete successful. That's my approach to everything.
and by the way, they're betting on that too, because the same as everyone else, you would not be necessary. And you stand out because of your originality and because of your bravery and your courageousness to try new things. If you don't try, you don't know. The worst thing that could happen is it won't work. The best thing that can happen is, hello, look
Exactly.
I just want to put one pointer for anyone putting things in Q&A. I see things popping up, but I cannot open Q&A. So if you could push it into chat, that would be better for me. And then for PSA, you have a question. So if you could answer it in the chat. Libby Fender says, I have a logistical question about Pro Sports Assembly membership. Your membership process asks for franchise affiliation as a requirement. Do you have a space for sport industry professionals who are not working for a team?
Oh, I can answer that. So we do have an affiliate membership. So, you know, Pro Sports Assembly was started for employees of teams, leagues, and unions, but we realized that the industry stretches much more wide than that. So if you are in the sports industry, but you don't technically work for a team, a league, or a union, you can become an affiliate member. So please reach out, but it'll definitely be worth your while.
Thank God for you. You have all the answers. Let's see. Hold on. There's more coming in. 1 second. Wow, an active group. How can we bring together the trickle-down idea from the boardroom to the grassroots organizations who are already working within the diverse world corporations are looking to implement? The diverse world corporations are looking to implement.
No, and that's so important. You know, when I was at the Panthers, I worked with our players on our social justice impact committee, and that was a big emphasis for us. It's not about the Panthers creating a new shiny program. There are organizations that are struggling, that are doing the work. They're in the communities every day. We should uplift them. Like, you don't come in and you recreate the wheel just to say that it's a Panthers program. Partner with local organizations that are right down the street that have been doing this work longer and better than you ever could, and uplift them. And, you know, I work closely with Julius Peppers, and he's big on that too. He doesn't want to, you know, start his own thing. He's like, who's doing the work? He's like, I say, find the people that are doing the work and how can we help them? Whether it's money, whether it's him lending his name. And so we have to do the same things with other organizations too. It's so important to not, you know, overstep, you know, like, you know, a lot of organizations, they say this all the time. They get very frustrated when they see big companies, you know, do their own thing. It's like, well, why are you doing that when we're over here and we've been doing it? Like, why not just come and work with us? And so, but you need people that understand that world in the room. If there's no one in the room that says, hey, we should find organizations, or I know of an organization that's in Harlem, that's in this place, and they're doing the work, then those conversations just don't happen. So it starts with diversifying the room, because if you diversify the room, chances are there's somebody there that has that idea and has that mindset. If you don't have a diverse room, you're not going to even think, about organizations, because you probably don't know about them, or you don't even think like that, right? So more people that think differently, that's probably going to come up. But I totally agree. Don't reinvent the wheel. Partner with someone that's doing the work and uplift them.
You got a lot of love. Joshelle Mitchell says, appreciate your transparency. Always HBCU love this way. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Monil says, thank you, Esé. You are such an inspiration. I begin law school in the fall, and it's refreshing to see you passionate about your work and working for a worthy cause. So
Thank you.
incredible. And I have to end this conversation. We'll open another one because there's got to be a part two.
Yeah.
Talking, but you truly are so inspiring. You are a real model for change, a real model for purpose and passion, following your heart, not being afraid to ask for what you want, standing up, standing out, but also you stand together. You are truly a team player. And
thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you guys do with the Female Quotient. I mean, you guys, I feel like every 2 seconds I'm getting an email of a dope conversation that you guys are facilitating. And I know you're excited to get back out there and do your pop-ups, because I love those too. But thank you guys for having me. This is amazing. And we need to have more conversations, because I always say, if you have a conversation and one person leaves inspired to do something they didn't think they could do, then it was worth it. So
look what you just did, Esé, for Monil going to start her law degree. And so it really starts, if you could change or inspire one person, that's a legacy of change, in our lifetime. And so, so grateful for you, all that you're doing for everyone at PSA. We need you, we value you, we treasure you, and thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.